In the public presentation of personality, we have to present to the world a consistent persona. All of the inner tumult, we don't have to share with the world. For two reasons. Number one, they're probably not interested. Right? And number two, it doesn't do anybody any good. So we try to create, as much as we can, a relatively consistent persona. Now and then, you, either with your close friend, your spouse, therapist, or somebody, you do want to open up, right, to oftentimes the great messiness within. But most of us aren't interested in other people's mess. We really want people to bring to us a relatively consistent persona that's not going to bring too much disruption. By the way, I think one of the indications of true intimacy is that you can tolerate the mess of another person. If you can tolerate the mess of another person, that's part of what we mean by intimacy, and they're not going to punish you for it. They realize you're having a bad moment. There's messiness in all of us. I can withstand it if you have a messy moment. That's okay. We'll put this thing back together later. That's ideal intimacy. Unfortunately, oftentimes intimacy means that the need to punish gets worked out because we don't want to do that with people in the public. So an ideal kind of intimacy would be that whatever's going on within us, that we should try to know very deeply. Now and then we can share that, but most of it has to be kept private. So in the prayer book it says, a person should always be Yirei Shamayim, basetra uvagalui, privately and in public, dover emet bilvavo, speaking the truth in your heart. So from the Hasidic perspective it says, you have to know all of the different motivations as much as you can. Do what you're going to do. Don't be paralyzed by the fact that you have conflicting motivations. Do the most righteous thing that you can. Don't judge yourself too harshly because of the complexity of your inner life. And as you go through life, try to align your motivations with the best part of your being, realizing there's always going to be mess. There's always going to be disparate, wayward parts of the self. That's more of a Hasidic approach. So between this Mishnah and this phrase from the prayer book, this is really core to how my religious life functions, which is the idea of reverence for the truth, especially what's happening within me, known to God, to be aware of it, and with all of aware of my own complexity and the waywardness within, try to figure out a way to live that brings the most goodness to my life and to others, and to forgive myself for the parts of me that don't perfectly align with the values and virtues that I want to live by. Any questions, comments, or thoughts about this? Yeah, Shaya? That's very insightful. I really appreciate that because I think you're right. I think sometimes people feel really stuck. What they feel internally is a need to go to war and to get to the thing after the war. So part of the punishing is to destabilize the person so deeply that they have to go to a raw state, and that some real conversation that hasn't been had can be had now. Because you're gonna so break through what they're doing. So you're right. Here, punishment is a means to wiping out all you might say wiping out civilization in a way. Let's just get to the raw thing happening here. So part of it is resentment. You've done harsh things to me, I'll do it to you. So there's vengeance. There's punishment. You've disappointed me, I'm going to hurt you. And the next thing is, and I want to go to war because I want to see what's left after the war. All those things are there. And I think those are some pretty clear motivations. So the question is, when those things are happening inside of you, you say to yourself, well, I want vengeance, I want punishment, and I want war, and I want the aftermath, and I think I'm not going to do any of that right now. That's the idea here. Because if I want to get to the aftermath of the war, what I realize is there are things that might be said that that we can't take back. It might leave such a bitter residue that there might be a better way. There might be a way the other side. By the way, sometimes in relationships, a couple times a year where people just, again, I don't advocate using insults, but sometimes just you say what's there. Sometimes people need that. Sometimes just they have a volatile moment where everything gets said. I just say, don't do it too often. Like Hanukkah and right before Yom Kippur, exactly. Right before Yom Kippur is a good time to do it.